So, the question we're often asked once people know what creative ID is about is, so what? How do you apply all of this great stuff into business and teams and into my work? That's what we'll aim to cover in this short video. So before we do that, first a little reminder of what creative ID is. It's essentially a psychometric framework that unlocks creative intelligence in the world of work. So that's the space we're in. And creative intelligence, how do we define that? It's the capacity to identify creativity in all its forms, understand your own preferred creative styles, and of course, the preferred styles of others. And importantly, so that you can leverage this awareness to achieve new, different, or better outcomes. So that's an anchor when we talk about creative intelligence. Real brief, creativity in all its forms, a bit of a reminder of what that looks like. Well, we have identified through all our research 5 creative styles: stimulating, spotting, sculpting, selecting, and supporting. These styles complement one another. None of them are better or worse than others, but you might need them at a greater or lesser extent depending on the task you're working on and the team you're working with. What the 5 styles help you do is really broaden the definition of creativity in the workspace, and essentially this point about understanding creativity in all its forms. So back to the definition, so that we can look at what this video is actually about, which is about achieving new, different, or better outcomes. Because that's really context dependent. So if we look at outcomes, essentially there are 4 big buckets of outcomes: individuals, teams, leaders, and organizations. So for individuals, the impact creative ID typically has is around self-awareness. A lot of people we work with don't really feel they're creative. So this gives us an awareness of how they are creative and not if they're creative, which in turn gives them confidence. And they can start engaging into the innovation agenda, executing the strategy, or whatever it might be, which is obviously important for business because we need to engage every single employee and not just those who have innovation or creativity in their title. Next is teams. So what creative ID gives people is an understanding of each other through a new lens, and beyond the job title or where they sit in the organizational chart. The language we use is very inclusive. Everyone is equal, but everyone is different. So it also gives people a role to play, which is very inclusive. And that ultimately enhances collaboration. For leaders, often, if we talk about people not seeing themselves as creative, for leaders is obviously, what's the point of creativity or creative intelligence in my role? So they really demonstrate the relevance for that, anchors it around in the strategy and the direction they're setting, but also enabling the execution of that by being role models, that they walk the talk and really set the agenda from the way that they lean into creative intelligence. And then last but not least, organizations. Of course, organizations need to grow, they need to transform, they need to innovate, and it really enables that driver in terms of the output, but along the way also influencing the culture that we want to create. So not just the goal, but also the cultural and the environment there. So these are the 4 buckets. How that looks in practical terms really depends on the organization and the team or the challenge we're working with. But over the years, we work with a multitude of different organizations. And what we've learned from doing this is that it's a flexible framework. So what does creative ID have in common with Lego? Well, basically, you can build the Lego as it says on the box. And we have a half-a-day session that you can use for that. But even more importantly, it's a flexible framework that you can put together in all sorts of forms. And why is that possible? Because in addition to being a psychometric tool, creative ID is a lens that you can look at yourself in the context of creativity at work and understand each other as well. It gives you a language where you can move your thoughts to action, but also a language to collaborate around that unites groups of people and ensure that they're on the same page. And combined, the lens and the language acts as lubrications for projects that people are working on or challenges that they need to address. So just to make it a little bit more specific, I want to share with you 7 different consultants all around the world who use Creative ID and apply it slightly differently. First up, we have Leo. He talks about thinking like an innovator. And really here, the 5 styles helps him get people in tune with their creative mindset so they feel more comfortable starting to think like an innovator. So it's not without it so it becomes within reach. For Union, she's a design thinker and used design thinking process a lot with her clients. And the 5 styles really help her lubricate that process and bring the mindset and the human aspect into it so that everybody feels that they are equipped to be design thinkers. Richard, he works a lot in different types of innovation, and one of the things he particularly does is claims workshops. How can we talk differently about the products we have or the products we're innovating? And he uses Creative ID to manage the whole claims workshop process. Helen, she works with leaders and recently worked with a client who need to do a strategic pivot because they're working on a burning platform. So often it's about dealing with stuff that is urgent, but she really needed to get them to feel that it's also important and to get them to be proactive in the way that they think differently. Christina worked with a client where the strategy had changed and they needed to execute this new strategy and start engaging in it in a new and different way and really equipping the whole organization in order to do that. Celia and Nina, they do a lot of different programs that have several modules, and one of the latest programs was for a business school in executive education, where Creative ID sat as a psychometric framework in one of those modules and was then used as the language and lens throughout the rest of the module. And Rob, he is a resilience specialist, so he works a lot in well-being and he incorporates Creative ID way of thinking into how people can gain more confidence about their ability to navigate change. So here you just have 7 examples. As you can see, they're all quite different. And therefore, the way that you apply Creative ID will also be dependent on your situation and what your client needs. I hope this is helpful. Give us a shout if you have any questions.